Welcome to the show, guys. Welcome to Two Guys One Octagon. You're tuned in. As always, thank you, ISO Lando, for bringing us in. That is his album, Look Mom, I'm a Rapper. We'll get all his links in the description below. But we're so excited to bring you guys in. I'm your co-host, Jesse Reno, joined by the other half of the show, John Logan Hines. JL, how are you doing today?
I got the official Fight Island, well, not official, my official Fight Island shirt on. I'm ready. I'm ready to make this place my home, Jesse. It sounds like maybe it will be. I know that they are promising Daniel Cormier that he's going to get the fight in the small octagon, but Vegas is shutting down again. So you say it right there. We're never getting off this island. We might not be getting off this island. Dana White might be Abu Dhabi citizen by the time this is all over.
Yeah, I think he might start getting probably his 10th beach house after this is all said and done. But we got a fully loaded episode for you guys. We're breaking down all of the fights coming up this weekend on the UFC Fight Night Till versus Whittaker. We're looking back at last week. We also got some bonus content in here for you, as well as a giveaway, so stay tuned for that. Hopping into the episode, like I said, we're kicking it off by looking back at UFC Fight Night Figueirdo versus Benavidez, the fights that took place on Saturday night. Then we're looking forward to UFC Fight Night Till versus Whittaker. We're breaking down the massive card, and what I mean by that is in quantity. They got 15 fights they put on this card, so we're breaking down every single one of them, including head-to-heads of Till versus Whittaker, Shogun Rua versus Lil Nog, Verdum Gustafsson, and then we got a bonus one for you as well, so stay tuned for that secret. We got our MMA newsroom, and our great debate is coming back. So fully loaded episode for you guys. I'm excited for every little bit of it. But as promised, we're looking back. Oh, never mind. I tricked you guys. Let's kick off our giveaway. Again, we're keeping this going until the end of the month. We're going to announce it at the end of our Irene Aldana versus Holly Holm card. We're giving away 2 copies of UFC 4. I know they just dropped a new trailer today, so don't forget to see it. But how you guys qualify to get this is you go down in the comments, comment on the video what you think of our picks, comment on who thinks you had the better breakdown. Let us know how you think. Shout out to El Kakui for commenting. We love reading those. Also, like the video and subscribe to the channel. At the end of the month, we're picking who we think gave the best comments, is the best hardcore fan of Two Guys One Octagon. We're excited to give this away. So, as promised, looking back to last week, UFC Fight Island 2 recap, a lot went down. JL.
Biggie Smalls!
I'm kicking it to you, man. You tell me what you thought of the fights this past weekend.
Man, oh man. I thought that was it's not the best card of the year, but it was a really entertaining card in my opinion. I actually watched it with my brother-in-law, who is very much a casual and doesn't watch all the cards, but even he was thoroughly entertained. And we ended the night at about 9 o'clock, which is perfect here in Denver to still have something left of your Saturday night after the fights were over. So that was awesome. I think there's a couple takeaways from this, and I'll let you address a couple of these as well. But has there been? I mean, there's very few, performances that were as impressive in one round as Figgy Smalls was on Saturday night. To get 3 knockdowns in a round, to get the finish, to literally make Benavidez look like a high school state champ. Like, this was not even fair, and I felt like I was ripping Vegas off for the -240 odds that I got on Mr. Figueirdo. So very happy about that. What a performance, Jesse. Thoughts on Figgy Smalls?
Like I said on last week's episode, I thought
he's a bad man.
That Vegas was off on this line. I mean, we just saw Joe Benavidez get knocked out a couple months ago. You run the same matchup back. You make a big deal about this headbutt and 2 pounds. I didn't buy into any of that. So I cashed out pretty big. I know you did too on Figgy Smalls. Gastelum, I think he made a big mistake by going back in there. I don't know why he went back into He tried to re-enter the guard on Jack Hermanson, and I think it's just bad decision-making. Still, in my
You don't
mind,
think he's finished?
I don't think he's finished, man.
I don't think he's mentally there right now. That's why I set that up that way. It's just, to me, if you just look at his history since losing to Izzy, I think it would probably benefit Kelvin to take some time off and kind of reset, because he's talked about some of the mental health issues that he was dealing with. My thoughts and prayers go out to anybody that's going through something like that. I've been through some of that myself, so certainly not easy to overcome those things. But I think it would probably be best for him from a competition standpoint to take some time off and regroup.
I'm going to go the other way, man. I think if Gastelum gets the split decision victory over Till, I think he's in a totally different spot. And getting caught by Jack Hermanson in a leg lock is nothing to be ashamed of. At the same time, maybe his mental state is something that needs to be addressed a little bit more. He set up to the fight. I mean, he's obviously not going to say he's struggling, but he set up to the fight that he solved those issues. And he looked good physically compared to what we're used to seeing from him. So I don't know about that, but that one is TBD. We'll figure out what happens with Gastelum. But the one that I was most excited about on the night as a whole was Fiziev. He had me out of my seat. I did not expect him to swag out on Mark Diakese the way he did. When he threw the hook to spinning back fist, I about lost my mind. And then he did the Matrix on him as well. So that was just beautiful to see. I am freaking pumped to watch his next fight. So it was
yeah. Whoa. You're going to skip over maybe Figueiredo's only legitimate challenger at this point, with Askarov, kind of, in my opinion, announcing himself. You talk about what's the kryptonite for these guys that are so powerful as strikers, the way that Figgy is. It's a guy like Askarov who's going to be able, or has the potential to manhandle him, get him on the ground, and grind out some wrestling, grappling style victories. I thought he looked really good there on Saturday night. It seemed like he never really got out of third gear. And I think that could be maybe the only legitimate challenger for Figueiredo at 125 right now, until Mr. Cringe Triple C comes back.
Yep. So,
and you also skipped over the fact that once again I kicked your ass in picks. Your boy's up 9 units. 12-7 since we started tracking, 63% winning percentage. I bumped that number back up this weekend. Jesse took another hit, moving down to 5-9.
I'm at 0, dead even.
So again, this guy is giving you fewer picks and also less accurate picks. So be careful who you listen to, guys. There are people on MMA Twitter and MMA media that know what they're talking about, and some people that don't.
Hey, JL, this is in MMA. It's a what have you done for me right now business. And we're looking ahead to a new week. If you're looking back at what you've done previously, it's about the long haul. It's about what's happening now and what we're going to do in the future. I'm looking forward. I am proud of myself. I had some unlucky picks, but I mitigated my losses. I'm at none lost, but none gain. I'm coming for that ass, bro. Just be ready for it. Just be ready.
We're Scrooge McDucking this week. I got some big money plays, so pay attention. All right. Let's go. So let's jump in, man.
Let's go. So kicking off the night, we got Nathaniel Wood versus John Castaneda. JL, did I pass that one? I thought that was pretty good.
I think you did. You got Nathaniel right.
So Nathaniel Wood coming over from Cage Warriors. I'm going to start that one over. So Nathaniel Wood coming off of his loss to John Dotson. I think this guy's a legit talent, man. I was watching him fight. He's got really strong fundamentals, and he just got unlucky running into John Dotson there, who's a savvy veteran who's going to fight back. I think Nathaniel's good everywhere this fight takes place. In the clinch, on the ground, he's got really good top game. I love his boxing. I like his feints. And I think he's going up against John Castaneda, who's outmatched and outgunned in every part of this fight. And that's reflected in the odds. Nathaniel Wood opened it up as minus 365. Closing line at minus 425. I even saw that climb as high on my sports book that I'm using, up to minus 495. I actually do have a play here. So take Nathaniel Wood, put him in your back pocket. I'm going to bring him out for a parlay later in this card. So Nathaniel Wood, we're including him in a parlay. I'll let you know the rest of that later on. But I'm looking forward to that fight. So moving on to the next one, we got Ramazan Ameev versus Nicholas Stolze. Pretty good, right?
I'm giving you it. Good job.
All right.
Proud of you.
Ramazan Ameev, coming off that loss to Anthony Rocco Martin. We all know how good Anthony Rocco Martin is. He just went 3 rounds with Neil Magny, and it was a close fight. He got that leg beat up bad, and he lost in Russia. So I think he's going to come off this pretty fired up to make a statement, and he's going up against a UFC newcomer, Nicholas Stolze. And Nicholas, when I watched the film on him, man, he's got good stand-up. He throws hard. He's down the pipe. His kicks don't have a lot of tell to them, so they just come quick. So for me, I'm actually going to lean Nicholas Stolze. I'm going to watch this as a live bet, though, because what I'm seeing now is that the lines are shifting a little slowly for the underdog. And if I can see Nicholas sprawl out a couple takedowns and keep Ramazan off, I think I'm going to make a play on Nicholas, trying to get him around that 200 range. I think the minus 245 plus 175 was more fair than where he's at right now. So watch for a live bet on Nicholas Stolze versus Ramazan Ameev in Nicholas's favor. Joe, kicking it to you.
All right. We got Beth Carrera versus Pani Kienzad. I definitely didn't get that second one right. There's no way I did.
You did.
Yes.
But this is where I'm going to hurt you, bro. You got Betch's name wrong. It's Betch Correa.
Yeah. I'm not going to. Yeah, that's tough. That's just tough. Carrera, UFC vet who has fought everybody and anybody. Last fight was against Eubanks and looked a little bit shaky in the first round specifically, and then kind of grew into the fight as Eubanks got tired. We got Pani over here. It's her 3rd UFC fight coming up, not including the Ultimate Fighter. She's 1-1 so far with a loss to Julia Avila and a win versus Jessica Rose Clark. She really went toe-to-toe with Avila, who we know has that boxing pedigree. So keep it short, keep it sweet. I like Kienzad here, but not necessarily enough to make a play. Might be worth that live bet. But she did show she's pretty well-rounded against Avila. I was actually impressed with the way that she took on Julia there, and I do think this is going to go a full 3 rounds. But I don't think that Kienzad is going to fade the way that Eubanks did against Carrera, and that's why I like Kienzad. But again, not enough quite to make a pick. We'll be watching that one as a live bet.
I'm going to agree with you on that one. I'd probably leave Kienzad as well. But looking at the next fight, we got Tanner Boser making a short turnaround. He just came off of a nasty knockout on that Poirier Hooker card of Felipe Lins, probably a SportsCenter top 10 candidate. And he won some fans with that interview after, man. He was calling, I think he called somebody. He called Maurice Green out, I think, on that. He gets someone not quite Maurice Green level in Rafael Pessoa. Rafael, when I watched him fight, the first round in his last fight, he blew me away. His footwork, I think it was against Jeff Hughes, his footwork was out of this world for a guy with that size belly, man. He was in, out. He was tap dancing in there. But the problem with Rafael Pessoa's style is it's not built for 3 rounds. He can't keep that he can't keep that pace. On the 3rd round, he's flat-footed and he's there to be hit. He makes a lot of mistakes even early in that first round on how he enters distance, and he stands really tall and keeps his chin up high. Really team Tanner Boser to knock him out. I think Tanner Boser's looking good coming into this fight, and I think he's going to be on a streak, and he's going to be a pissed-off streak to get Maurice Green out of there. But for me, I'm going to hold off. I don't like betting on heavyweights at minus 250 odds. So I'm going to pass on this one. I think let's just sit back and watch the fireworks game plan. That's what we're going with that.
Should we bet on a knockout? Is there value there? I haven't looked. I'm just asking.
Pessoa's got a little bit.
Got to give the people what they want.
I got some plays. Don't worry. I got some plays coming up. So I think keep your money in your pocket here. Keep your money in your
Give the
pocket.
people what they want.
So, JL, let's see if you give the people what they want on this next fight.
All righty, here we've got Movsar Evloev. Got that right. I put the pronunciation in my notes. And Mike Grundy, no way I got that wrong. So Evloev, takedown merchant, averaging 5 takedowns per fight, but also has a background with Tiger Muay Thai and has done some training there. 2-0 so far in the UFC, and his training partners with Peter Yan, which I think is partially why he's kind of becoming or looking like the favorite in this situation. You hear some of this analysis on Evloev and Jan helping him, Evloev helping Jan with the wrestling while Jan's helping Evloev with the striking. That being said, Mike Grundy, no joke, coming off of his UFC debut victory against Nad Nurmani, who we saw last week. Not a very impressive performance, but nonetheless, Grundy has won 8 of his 12 professional fights by submission, and also, in my opinion, it has the capability to make you work a little bit on the feet. So, long story short, Evloev coming as that massive favorite. He's well-rounded. He has the tools to either take it to the ground or stand and strike with you. But I honestly think that Grundy's going to come out strong here. He's surprisingly quick and good on the feet. If this goes to the ground, I kind of like Grundy. With the submission background, and the odds, in my opinion, are way out of line for Grundy's talent from what I could see on some of the film study. I think he's got the slight advantage, like I said, on the feet with the quickness that he's got, and I think this is going to stay on the feet unless one of them decides to shoot. So I actually have a dog play for you, a 1-unit play on Mike Grundy. Don't knock it until I get it right. Follow or fade. It's going to be your decision, but I think he's down to plus 168. I got him at plus 180, so I feel pretty good about that.
I like it. A dog play, JL. Keep it rolling. So on this next fight, I actually do have a play, but it might not be what you expect. So I got Tom Aspinall coming over from Cage Warriors. He's a really solid boxer. He's got some boxing experience on his resume. He said he couldn't get any fights anywhere else in Cage Warriors and not on the regional scene, so he had to make the jump to the UFC. He's going up against Jake Collier, and Jake has coming off a long layoff. We haven't seen him in almost 3 years, and he's also making his heavyweight debut. He is making his heavyweight debut. So for me, right away, that's a big red flag. To come out off of a 3-year layoff during COVID, makes me, 1, question your motivation, and 2, how much rust is going to be on this guy coming up a new division off a long layoff. Automatically, I'm leading Tom Aspinall, but at minus 225, I don't like those odds. So I'm going to sweeten it up a little bit. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take Tom Aspinall, and I'm going to believe in him to have the better boxing, and I'm going to trust in him and trust his resume with all these finishes. He's got 7 of his 7 wins are all by finish. I'm going to take Tom Aspinall by finish at plus 100 odds. It's going to be a half-unit play on him.
All right, man. I like it. Nice. You're venturing out, but not going big. That's okay. That's okay. You got some ground to make up, so whatever way you need to do it is fine with me. So next up, we got Jesse Ronson versus Nicholas Dalby. And you guys have probably heard that name, Nicholas Dalby, before. For the fans that have been around for a while, yes, it's that Nicholas Dalby. Kind of interesting for those that don't know. He was in the UFC after a majority draw with Darren Till in 2015. He actually ended up going on a 3-fight losing streak, going back to Cage Warriors, and then was back to the UFC back there in March with a victory against Alex Oliveira. Ronson, on the other hand, UFC debut, and yes, it's another one. Very common trend we've seen over the last 3 cards now. 34 years old. So UFC debut at 34 years old. He's got power, but a pretty basic fighter. Doesn't really offer much in terms of feints. Doesn't really disguise his intentions too well. And for that reason, I kind of like Dalby. I think he just offers a little bit more. He's going to be the one pressuring Ronson if any of his other fights are an indication of that. And as long as Dalby doesn't get too aggressive, he should be able to work Ronson to a decision. So I do like Dalby there. but not necessarily enough at minus 255. Or what did he move down to there, Jesse? Minus 255, coming down from minus 290 to necessarily make a play. That's going to be another one that we'll be looking to live bet, because if that comes down into that minus 190, minus 180 range, I think it's Nicholas Dalby all day. If this goes to decision, the volume of Dalby is going to get us the W there. So I like Dalby in that situation.
Going with the vet, man. We got another veteran in our next fight, Francisco Trinaldo. You know what to expect from Trinaldo, man. He's going to go out there, fight a slow-paced fight if it's going his way, look for counter shots and look to knock his guy out. He's going up a Cage Warriors, young blood and hungry Jai Herbert, and Jai is pretty legit on his feet, man. This guy ducks in and out of range. He's got legitimate power. He's on a knockout streak. Going back on the film study on, I'm going to have to drink on this one because I don't know if it's Jai or Jay. I'm kind of leaning like a Jay. So I'll take it.
I appreciate your honesty. Yeah.
But I'm going to go with Jay. I'm going to pull Michael Bisping. We're going to call him Jay. So Jay was so in and out in his fight that I really liked how he entered and exited range and was able to put power shots on his opponent without getting hit. At the same time, in his fight, in 2 fights ago, he fought a guy that was a pretty good takedown artist, and that gave him some problems early in the fight. I'm thinking Trinaldo is going to try and present those same problems for him. But I really like to lean Jay in this fight. I love his style, and it might be me fanboying out a little bit too much on kind of his game. So what I'm going to do is look to live bet this one as well. Look for Jay to have some early success. If you could get him at that plus 150, even down to plus 125, I think it's a good bet. I think he's the more dangerous fighter here. I just don't know what to expect from Francisco Trinaldo, and is he going to go out there and try to hold him down this fight, because it does look like there's some holes in his game on that initial film study. So
I like it, man.
Looking at the next fight, Alex Oliveira versus Peter Sabata. This is another red flag for me in Peter Sabata. This guy we haven't seen in 3 years as well. In some of his interviews, he's talking about how he started 2 new businesses and he was making money in all these other avenues. And now we're seeing him come back. For me, that makes me wonder what is your motivation for coming back? And all the interviews that I saw never really answered that question. So what makes me feel like it? And again, I don't know the man. I don't know what his reasons are, but is it a money grab? And because he's an older fighter, he's a little bit older in his career. And Alex Oliveira is not the guy you want to come back to if you're going for a money grab. Alex Oliveira is a tough fight. He's going to look to hurt you in any way possible, whether it's on the feet or if he's on the ground. He's going to look to break your limbs, break you, and send Peter Sabata back into retirement. So I'm leaning Alex Oliveira. The only reason I'm not making a play here is because Alex Oliveira does a great job of making his fights 50-50 fights. He likes to make them exciting, and he's a fun fighter to watch. He's not the smartest fighter in the world. He could have some serious wins on his resume if he just made smarter decisions. The guy is extremely talented, and it's going to be hard for me not to make a play on the Brazilian Cowboy, but I'm going to pass on this one. I'll tweet it out as a bonus play if my heart changes, but it's not an official play for me on Alex Oliveira.
Come on, man. You sold me on Alex Oliveira. You sold me hard.
It's my heart talking.
I'm going to put money on him. So, this, I like your angle there. A guy like Sabata, maybe not 100% bought in right now. And at minus 165, I see no reason not to make a play on that.
I think people are leaning Sabata because he had a competitive fight with Leon Edwards and he was good 3-4 years ago, and people thought he was legit talent. But yeah, I think that's the only reason money's coming in and dropping him from a plus 220 to a 145.
Yeah, it does concern me a little bit sometimes when these guys come back. Think about Uriah Faber. Sometimes you kind of click back into what it's almost like you and I both ran cross country and track in college, and whenever, even if we're running slower now, if you and I got into a race, that mentality clicks back in pretty quick. So I think there is something to that. You know what I mean? And maybe you're not identified as being, as your training isn't identified as being off until you get to your second or third fight back. And maybe it's more like riding a bike. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe you're right there by staying away. So really interesting stylistic matchup with Paul Craig and Gads Zihamurad Antigulov. Sounded it out.
I think that's a drink, my friend.
Well, I feel like I got it right. But
I'll cheers to you on it. I appreciate the effort.
So both of these guys are going to want to get it to the ground. Both of these guys are going to want to roll for a submission, but Gads is a little bit more aggressive in doing so. He almost averages 10 submission attempts per fight, while Paul Craig, trending as a favorite, I think because he's a little bit more capable on his feet and definitely has that experience. For that reason, the experience, I'm leaning Paul Craig there. And it's really not often that he gets matched up with a guy who wants to maybe take it to the ground more than he does. But I feel like this is a stay away in terms of betting, because it's just tough to tell when this is going to turn into a high level grappling match. If it stays on the feet, I think Paul Craig probably grinds out a decision. But if this gets on the ground, it's, in my opinion, a 50-50 fight because they're both very, very capable. I think it's going to be fun to watch, and it's going to be even more fun to hear Michael Bisping try to call it. This is when we need Joe Rogan. Whatever it takes to get Joe Rogan on Fight Island, bro, we need Joe Rogan on Fight Island. God damn it!
Yeah. If I see an Instagram picture of Joe Rogan on Fight Island, I can't tell you how I'm excited I would be to see another man in swim trunks. But
oh shit, I got Carla Esparza and Marina Rodriguez as well. And I never got, I guess what I realized, actually, it's a new learning moment for me, is that I think, Jesse, correct me if I'm wrong, is the R, if you're Brazilian, pronounced as an H?
Rodriguez.
Yeah, Rodriguez.
I'm pretty sure. No. I know Renato is Hanato. So yeah, it is like an H, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Well, see, this is why I love soccer. This is why I love the UFC. I get a little bit more cultured every time I watch. So we have Carla versus Marina. Odds have shifted a little bit on this, but not by much. Marina's coming a little bit down as the favorite, but still, it's a pretty strong favorite there. And Carla coming in at plus 145. Let's take a look at this fight. So Esparza entering this on a 3-fight win streak, coming off of wins against Watterson and Grasso. Has wins against Rose, has a win against Calvillo. So she's certainly no joke, right? Messed it up. Rodriguez is undefeated, but her most impressive display came against Cynthia Calvillo, and that was a draw of a fight. So to me, I felt like Rodriguez won the fight against Cynthia pretty easily. I think she won 2-1, but it went to a draw because when Cynthia got her on the ground, it was pretty clear who had the advantage in that situation. I think Carla Esparza is going to try to keep this boring, and I think when she gets her chances, she's definitely going to shoot for the takedown as well. Frankly, I think she's going to be a little bit more disciplined on that than Cynthia was, and not get caught out by the striking. Marina Rodriguez has some pretty high-level striking, and definitely has, even though she looks very skinny, doesn't look like she would have the power, she's kind of like that Israel Adesanya type that has the power to knock you out or knock you down, even though she might not look like it. So I think that Esparza has to take this fight carefully, but I do like her as a dog in this fight, and enough to lay a half a unit on it for Esparza, because I do think if this goes to the ground, which is where Esparza wants it to go, I didn't see a lot that made me encouraged about Marina Rodriguez being on the ground in a wrestling type situation. So I like Esparza on the 3-fight win streak there. She kind of did the same thing that I think her game plan will be on Saturday night to Michelle Watterson and had a lot of success with it.
Oh, look at you, Jay. Another little halfsy on a dog. Look at that.
Don't worry, man. My big play is still coming up. Right here, baby.
All right, let's kick off the head-to-head. You seem like the one that you're all excited, so let's hear it.
So I don't understand this at all. Jesse and I were we try not to talk about this until we get on the show, so that we kind of don't know where the other person's coming from. But this one was too hard not to talk about. First of all, we see Khamzat coming off 10 days ago. First fight in the UFC gets announced on this card. Reese McKee gets the call on Sunday afternoon to come and fight Khamzat. Reese McKee said, "Who am I fighting?" He said, his coach said Khamzat. He said, "Don't know, don't care. Let's fucking do it." Love that from Mr. McKee. And to be honest with you, I know there's a lot of hype around Khamzat, but at this point, to me, it's still very much unproven and way too unproven to be a -1,000 favorite and get moved to the main card. To me, this can either go one of two ways. Either this is a little bit match fixy to me, seems a little bit game fixy, Mr. Dana White, moving into the main card, trying to propel your big Khabib when Khabib is taking a layoff. Maybe that's the play. Maybe we're talking a little WWE magic here. Or what's more likely is that Reese McKee is a very, very undervalued underdog in this fight. Let me tell you a little bit about this guy. Coming out of Cage Warriors, he's a very complete fighter, and it's going to be a very tough test, in my opinion, for Khamzat. He's got the power. He has that striking prowess. He's pretty damn aggressive on the ground as well. There's no way this fight goes 3 rounds one way or the other. But this chap from Northern Ireland, I think that he might be the guy to kind of take some of that hype out of the big Khabib. I am going with a 1-unit play on Reese McKee, big money time, no slouch. I think it's a good time to fade the public on Khamzat because he hasn't proven anything yet, and there's no way this dude deserves to be a -1,000 favorite. I'm very excited for this. I thought this was going to open the night. Now it's on the main card, so I have to wait a little longer to make my money. But I like the Irishman to capitalize on this opportunity and take that dub.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it from a numbers perspective, it doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense at all. Betting on a guy that is a great wrestler with a head kick, I don't understand. -1,000. Before we got on here, I looked on some websites. They have him at -1,300. That's almost a 94% implied winning percentage. I can't think of a fighter that I'd put at 94% chance that they're going to win any fight, let alone would I bet on any fighter in the UFC versus any fighter in the UFC at -1,300 odds. There is no money to be made on Khamzat. I am sorry.
Can I say something real quick on him? Because I actually did the film study on him 2 weeks ago as well. In every fight I've watched from Khamzat up until his UFC debut, he just went out and rushed his opponent and looked for the finish as quick as possible. If he slips back into those old habits, we're gonna see him get rocked, and we're gonna see him get rocked hard. If he comes out and does what he's capable of from a wrestling point of view, then maybe the -1,000 odds aren't as crazy as I think that they are. But in my opinion, just too inexperienced of a fighter, and from what I've seen, maybe he's just that much better than everybody, and it's like watching LeBron dunk on high schoolers. There's a possibility that is the case. But until I see it against some legitimate opponents, I'm not going to buy into that hype. I just won't, and I'm going to try to make money on the underdog here.
Yeah, I don't understand it either. I got to play 2JL. It's a little bit different a direction, but I think it's absolutely value. I got Khamzat and McKee over 1.5. I got 1 unit on +184 odds. So I feel pretty good about it. We'll see how it goes. But I like Khamzat to kind of take the kitchen sink at him in the first round. I think Reese McKee can survive, and I think we're going to see.
He's got a chin for sure.
Yeah,
he's got some wrestling capability and some capability on the ground. I don't think this is going to be easy for Khamzat. I think that this is a tough fight. And this guy's up for the challenge, man. I saw that video Reese McKee, I mean, tearing up at the opportunity to come to the UFC, the opportunity to come to Fight Island. People dream for these opportunities, man. And, you can't learn everything from watching something like that. But, like, to me, the guy seems in it. I don't think he's just going there for a paycheck. This is his dream. There's no way that he lets it go down, like, lets this go without a fight. And frankly, if I know anything about the British culture, this man is going to feel disrespected by a plus 650 underdog line for someone that he admittedly has no idea who this guy is.
Just be careful calling the Irishman British.
It's Northern Ireland, so it is British. Thank you very much. Know your geography.
With that being said, let's look at the next fight. The third to last fight on the card. I think it should hands down be the co-main event of the evening. I don't understand, but that's an argument for a later day. We got Alexander Gustafsson versus Fabricio Verdum. Interesting crossroads fight for both of them. This is Verdum's second fight, coming back from his suspension. He lost his fight recently to Alexei Oleinik on the undercard of Gaethje Ferguson. And then Gustafsson coming back after a long layoff after his loss to Anthony Smith, where he retired in the octagon. But he is making his heavyweight debut, which we always see that as kind of re-excites not only the fighter but the fans, as it's another opportunity to make a run. Let me say off the bat, I love Gustafsson at heavyweight. He's got the frame for it. I think he's 6'5", and he's not going to be a small heavyweight by any means. I also think he has the footwork and the cardio to give a lot of heavyweights some problems. Verdum in his last fight against Oleinik was very unimpressive. Yes, he was great on the ground, but we always know he's going to be great on the ground. But his cardio was terrible. He faded in the fight. He was almost given up in that third. He had to win the third round to win that fight against Alexei, and he really just folded. I think Gustafsson's going to pick him apart on the feet. I don't think Verdum's going to be able to take him down. I think Gustafsson, even at this point in his career, is twice as talented as Verdum, and I think it's going to be an easy decision. I had Gustafsson in a parlay with Grant Dawson, so it was a pretty big parlay. So I have Gustafsson. It is parlay odds, so if you want to find a parlay somewhere on the card to add him in, I would look at doing so. I feel fairly confident about my Gustafsson pick here.
So, question for you: are you going to be trying to if Gustafsson does win, are you going to be trying to use that as money earned on this card?
No, because the Grant Dawson and Gustafsson one wasn't an official pick.
Okay, good. That's all I needed to know. So. So I actually disagree with you, and I actually like Verdum in this. I don't know if we can trust Gustafsson in his mental state right now. And frankly, Jesse, there's no way I'm betting on someone that loses to Anthony Smith. So, but I mean, retiring the way that he did and then kind of saying that it was an emotional decision, spur of the moment, blah, 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 blah. I like Verdum. I like his experience. I like his ability to get this on the ground. And I like another underdog pick, 1 unit play on Fabricio Verdum to beat Gustafsson. I kind of see this playing out very similarly to Hermansson and Gastelum last week. And I like Verdum to get Gustafsson in a tough situation early and lock up a submission finish and make Gustafsson retire emotionally again. So
I hope I ate my words, but you're making a lot of dog plays this week. I think you're getting a little confident with your...
We're going big! We're making money, baby. Let's go.
All right. Well, let's look to the next one. We're looking at the senior division here. We got Antonio Rogerio Nogueira versus Mauricio Shogun Hua. So Little Nog, as some of you guys may know, he opened up as a plus 155, and he's closing about plus 160. Not much money going either way. No movement on the Shogun Ua line. I think these odds are spot on, to be honest with you. I think Shogun Ua has a little more gas in the tank, and that's really all there is to it. I think Antonio is coming out here to really finish out a contract. This guy is so old. He's been around the game so long. Respect to him, man. In the Pride days, him and his brother were a legend. They were known for their toughness and their boxing and their great jiu-jitsu, but I don't think any of that is really even relevant in 2020. I think Shogun Rua has enough to get it done. And hey, guys, remember when I said earlier in the night to take Nathaniel Wood and put him in your back pocket? We're going to go heavy on Shogun Rua here. I think he's got enough gas in the tank to really just make this an easy fight. So we're not only going to parlay Shogun Rua and Nathaniel Wood together, which, let me see those odds really quick. That was minus 125 odds now with those two blended together, 1 unit play on that. We're also just going to take Shogun Rua straight up. We're going to do a 1 unit play. I actually got him at minus 200, so I was a little unlucky on my Shogun Rua. So I got 1 unit play on Shogun Rua at minus 200 as well. So 2 plays for you on that fight.
I'm going to be honest with you. Let's move past this one quickly. I don't really fuck with these types of fights. This is a fight for the old heads, and I'm not into it. But that being said, I'm tailing you for the official pick on Shogun as well and playing a 1 unit play on that. But honestly, I could really do without that fight altogether. Really don't. I'm really just glad it's not 5 rounds because God forbid I had to sit through that. I just want to get to this fight right here. Mr. Darren Till versus Ribbert. Jesse had a typo there. Robert Whittaker. I know it was Robert. I pronounced it Ribbert just to mess with Jesse. Jesse doesn't know how to spell sometimes. And it's a little bit of an inside joke that we've got going. So I'll start this one off, Mr. Hesse. To me, this fight comes down to what kind of mental state Mr. Ribbert Whittaker is in. And I think if Whittaker goes out aggressively and takes on Darren Till the way that he did on his run up until he met, Israel Adesanya, I honestly think Whittaker has the advantage in this fight. Till, in my opinion, has struggled against guys who lead the fight against him in the past. And if Whittaker does that, which he's 1,000% capable of doing, then I really like Whittaker in this fight. That being said, both guys have the power to KO each other. But I just have a feeling that Whittaker is going to win this one. So I worry a little bit about Till's chin. I worry about him getting thrown off when Whittaker takes control of the fight. I'll give you my official pick in a second. I'm going to tease it and let Jesse kind of take over. I knew you were going to go with the Liverpool guy, man.
Ba, ba, ba.
We're going to get copyright infringement.
I got Darren Till on this one, and I'm going to disagree with you for so many reasons on this one, JL. I think we haven't seen the best Bobby Knuckles in a while, man. Bobby Knuckles, looking back, I don't think we've really seen the best version of himself since Jacare Souza versus him maybe 3 years ago. He had some tough fights against Yoel Romero, which no one in their UFC career really should be doing. This really, for me, set him back. I'm a little bit worried about Robert Whittaker. I think he's coming off 3 real taxing fights. You go the 2 Yoel Romero fights and then the Israel Adesanya fight. And then also I'm going to look at his style too. If you looked at Robert Whittaker in his previous fights before Israel, he was a lot more, he was aggressive, but he was a little looser with his strikes. Against Israel, man, he was super tense, looking to take his head off, and you could read his shots from a mile away. If he comes in anywhere relatively close to that, Darren Till is going to take this man's head off. So for me, I think Darren Till, I think his headspace is in the right spot. Am I concerned about his chin? I would be, but not as much at 185. I think we saw in his last fight, too, against Kelvin Gastelum, that Darren Till can play a little more disciplined style. I'm going to lean Darren Till. I like the minus 105 odds. I got up at minus 105. I got 2 plays here for you. I'm going to take Darren Till straight up at minus 105. I think he's got more than enough to get it done. I think he's also going to get Robert Whittaker out of there. I think Whittaker's durability has shown that it's going downhill. I'm also going to take the Whittaker Till over under 4.5, at minus 132. I got a 1 unit play on that. So love both those plays. I'm leaning Darren Till. I think he gets him out of there, probably in the 2nd or 3rd round.
That is straight up disrespectful to the former champ. Robert Whittaker hasn't fought since he fought Israel Adesanya.
That's an issue.
Yes, I think he struggled against Izzy. And most people would, man. If Darren Till if Darren Till was fighting Israel this weekend, this would be a minus 500 line, bro, for Israel Adesanya. There's no way that a guy like Darren Till can compete with Izzy at this time. That being said, think back to what we thought about Robert Whittaker in your words before he fought Israel Adesanya. How worried were you going into that fight that Izzy was going to get knocked out by Bobby Knuckles? I don't see any reason why we wouldn't expect a return to form. Everything he's talked about having a really strong camp. Again, coming from a part of the world that's a little bit less impacted from COVID-19 than some of the other ones. So he's had a little bit more normalized camp. I like Bobby Knuckles here. I like him to return to form. I like him to be on the front foot, and I like him to knock out Darren Till. I'm going a full 2-unit play on Bobby Knuckles. We're going to win some big money this weekend. And remember who has the better record, boys and girls. It's this guy right here. Trust me, not him. Or if you want to lose money, trust Jesse. I don't know. You do you. But yeah, no, I think people are a little down on Robert Whittaker, and I'm very excited to see that line come down to some money-making range for myself and the other smart bettors out there.
All right.
If I wasn't such a good bettor, why would I wear a Hawaiian shirt? I feel like every good handicapper that you see on TV is wearing a Hawaiian shirt sometimes. I feel like this is the official uniform of someone who makes money betting on sports.
All right, JL the Greek Hines speaks. All right, well, that concludes our breakdown. Moving into some of the most fun segments of our show, we're kicking it off again with Two Guys One Octagon Newsroom. Let's get this animation there. First news story of the week, actually. This was probably one of the biggest stories that came out. Speaking of Israel Adesanya, we have Israel's next fight booked, and he's taking on Paulo Costa. JL, as a hardcore Israel Adesanya fan, I'm sure you have a take here.
Hey, this is a little bit of a scary matchup for Izzy, I think. You hear these stories about Paulo Costa and not being able to maintain a training partner because he wrecks. He just runs through them. That absolutely scares me. Do I have faith in Izzy? Yes, I do. I think this guy is someone who has the mentality to be a long-term champ. But anybody can get caught, man. And Paulo Costa certainly has the power roids to do it. So there's no way that this dude is clean, and maybe we won't see this fight, or maybe we will, and Izzy will win his belt back, or it'll get vacated because Paulo Costa gets in trouble with USADA. I think that's probably the most likely outcome. I have the odds coming into this fight minus 200 USADA. I got Izzy at minus 105 and Paulo Costa as an underdog at maybe around plus 150.
I like it. I probably lean Izzy as well. Looking at some of the interviews that they've had in there, Israel seems like he knows where the holes are going to be. I think it's a little more than just confidence there. I think he legitimately thinks that he can expose some of the fundamental flaws in Paulo Costa's game. As a bettor, I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be Israel probably going to open up at minus 185 and climb, and Paulo about plus 150. I think it's closer to a minus 150 Izzy fight, if I'm being honest. But I expect, as a bettor, being on a betting show, I think there's going to be value betting Paulo Costa.
So, yeah, I mean, maybe. So actually, surprisingly, Izzy opened at minus 140 with Paulo at plus 109. That was just a quick Google search to find that. It's from BJ Penn's website, so take it with a grain of salt. And yeah, right around minus 150 opening lines there on Paulo Costa versus Israel. I could see that climbing as high as like minus 230. And you're probably right, man. At some point, there's value on the guy that absolutely has knockout power. But yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yep.
Looking forward to that fight for sure. Yeah. So now we've got Mr. Daniel Cormier, just kind of a light week in terms of MMA news. Came out there on Ariel Helwani and the DC MMA show and talked a little bit about his training. One of the things he said, Jesse, and I'll kind of let you speak to this. is that he believes he lost the last fight there against Miocic because he didn't have the cardio, and when he got kicked and hit in the stomach, it took too much out of him, so he's not going to let it happen again. Do you kind of take that into consideration at all when we're looking at a possible angle from a betting perspective, that he's identified that? I think he's also doing a ESPN detail breakdown of Stipe at some point here. If he hasn't already, it's going to be released at some point, I think during fight week. Thoughts on that, and maybe does that play into the betting at all, or make you more confident about our boy DC?
I don't know, man. I think it's good that he's going to try and up his cardio for this fight, but that really I think the reason he lost that fight against Stipe back in August was because he got away from what got him to the dance, man. He started thinking he was a boxer. He was walking in on Stipe with his hands down. He had a great first round by taking Stipe to the ground, and then we didn't really see much of a shot after that. I think if he wanted to keep pushing a game plan of mixing in his boxing with the wrestling, I think he has the tools to beat Stipe all day long. But we know Daniel, man, and he wants to beat you at your game. He's the ultimate competitor. I'm a little bit worried about this fight against Stipe. Whenever someone starts thinking about retirement as well, it throws me for a little bit of a loop on whether it's someone that I'm going to lean on. But no, to answer your question, I don't think the cardio was the issue. I think it was him getting away from his fundamentals and what got him to the dance.
I think that's fair.
So looking at the next segment of news, this came out yesterday late. Looks like Michael Bisping has confessed his sins to Street Jesus, and looks like he's been forgiven. It looks like Michael Bisping and Street Jesus had a little bit of a beef back in 2017. Obviously, Jorge Masvidal being Jorge Masvidal, but it looks like the beef is forgiven. What do you think about Michael Bisping doing his penance, JL?
I think Bisping is scared. No, maybe he's seen the light, man. I don't know. I think that I'll be honest. As much as the Masvidal story has been super fun, I think the whole thing is overblown. In my opinion, just a guy that got a little bit streaky there and had a good run, and to his credit, has turned that into a persona. Be interesting to see who he fights next, and that's kind of. Well, I don't really want to hear from Jorge Masvidal unless he's on the Dan Le Batard show, or talking about fighting Conor in his next fight here later in 2020.
Yep.
And finally, we have FanDuel Sportsbook announcing that they're giving their money back to anybody that bet on Blessed Holloway because of a perceived robbery. Jesse, I'll let you start because I think I have more of the hot take in this situation.
I wish FanDuel was legalized in Oregon. Unfortunately, it is not, because I really respect what they're doing here. I think that is fantastic that they're doing that. I don't think you would get that really from really any other sports book. I think if they cashed their winnings and they got lucky, they got it. So maybe by the letter of the law, they don't have to do it. But I think it's a great thing that they're doing, and it really if it was legalized here, I guarantee you I would take my winnings and go over to FanDuel if stuff like that was happening.
Okay. So that's exactly what they wanted out of that. To me, 100% PR stunt. You can never trust a sports book. And until we're sponsored by one, I will maintain that stance. You can never trust a sports book. Don't believe this hype, guys. Let's be honest. It was not a robbery, and FanDuel is realizing a market opportunity here to pounce on some of these new betting frontiers that are being opened in the States. So I respect it. I'm not saying I don't, but I'm just saying be guarded. Don't ever trust your bookie. I don't care if it's a personal bookie. I don't care if he's your best friend. I don't care if it's FanDuel. I don't care if it's DraftKings. Don't ever trust your bookie. They're here to take your money, and we're here to take theirs. So just keep that in mind. Stay in the fight.
All right, moving on to our last segment of the day, the MMA great debate. Should the UFC change the way that they judge fights? JL, I'm going to let you take it from here, and then I'll tune in a little bit after I hear
I've had a lot of hot takes today, Jesse, and I feel like I'm firing on all cylinders right now. So I apologize. I'm very energetic right now. I'm not sleepy JL Hines. I'm energetic JL Hines. So my thought on this is that no, because I like the way they judge fights right now, and I feel like I finally have a grasp on how these judges are looking at fights. Is it always the best fighter? No. Is it always the fighter that deserves to win? No. But do I feel like I have a good grasp on it from a betting perspective? Absolutely. I know that if somebody gets a takedown, it's essentially equal to a knockdown, which doesn't make any sense to me as a normal person. But now that I understand that from a betting perspective, I feel good about it. So I was like, I think it was the last fight with Marina Rodriguez versus Cynthia Calvillo. The reason that it became a draw is because Calvillo got 2 takedowns in the first round, even though from a normal observer's eye, Rodriguez clearly won round 1. But now that I know that, I have the knowledge that I need to win money on the UFC. And for that reason, I am not in favor of changing anything to do with how these fights are judged, because I don't want to have to relearn that skill. So that's my 2 cents. And the floor is yours, sir. May the representative from Oregon, I grant you 3 minutes of time.
I think this is a problem with the UFC, and it needs to be addressed. The whole system as a whole they stole this format from a different sport, being boxing. This isn't boxing. It doesn't work like boxing. The 10-9 must system is completely broken. They judge each round as its own separate fight. I think we need to restart this thing and look at it as a whole, kind of go back to the Pride ways where you judge the fight as a fight. There's been so many title fights, and you got 2 here. You got Alexander Volkanovski, Holloway. You got John Jones, Dominic Reyes, 2 pretty controversial ones here in 2020. But there's fights like this every single year. I can go back to Johnny Hendricks versus GSP, where Johnny Hendricks clearly won that fight, but they gave it to GSP because the 10-9 must system, George St. Pierre squeaked out a takedown late in 1 round, and the judges leaned his way. I mean, another thing that frustrates me, if we looked at this Max Holloway-Volkanovski fight, I think how the judges looked at it is it came down to a takedown that Volkanovski got in the final seconds of that round, when Max Holloway had 2 takedowns and a wobble on Volkanovski.
You're actually right there, because I'm going to stop you for a second because this is a debate. So you're going to yield your time to me. But yeah, you're right about that, because I think all of the observers, people in media said the same thing. We thought maybe round 3, round 4 were the toss-up rounds, right?
Yep.
But the judges were looking at round 5 as being a toss-up round, which doesn't check out with what I was, reading and listening and watching from the MMA community at large. So I think you are right about that. There does seem to be a disconnect. And you see that with, and I honestly, to be honest with you, I feel like the majority of the fights are actually scored correctly. You look at like verdict, and I would say, 9 times out of 10, verdict is in line with the actual decision. At least I don't know the exact numbers, but then, that app where people are able, but they're also looking at it from a round perspective. So.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think I want to hear from the fans on this one and our viewers on what do you guys think on how the judges score fights, and is it the right way, or should we look at another way of doing so? But
so your proposal would be to score the fight as a whole, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it should be.
And how would you do that? Would you look at it the same kind of scoring system, or break that down for someone who's a little bit more casual here?
I think you look at the significant events that happened in a fight: a knockdown, a big takedown, a big amount of damage scored in the fight, and you look and you judge it as the entire fight. You don't necessarily judge it round by round by round. I think it's the best attempt to getting it back to 2 guys go in the backyard, have a scrapped, to those, and then everybody around in the circle decides who won. I think that's the best way to do it, but obviously this is a sport and it's got to get its own kind of way, but that's the closest way. We just got to figure out, all right, who caused the most damage, who controlled the fight, and therefore who won it. Not this, all right, this is who won this 5 minutes, but he lost this 5 minutes, and I thought they really won these 5 minutes, so I'm going to give them a 2-point advantage. Oh, wait. Dan Miragliotta didn't like how he was up against the cage, so he lost that position that he really fought for, but, oh, he kicked him in the nuts on accident, so we're going to take a point away there. Like, come on, man. This is just getting out of hand. So I think what we got to do, we got to judge these fights as a whole. I think we're far, far away from it, though, and I don't see the UFC really making this an initiative with them anytime soon.
Yeah, I'm going to challenge you on that for just briefly. You lost me there for a second, I'll be honest. I think the simplicity and familiarity of a round-by-round scoring system is going to be just tough to overcome. And again, we go back to this conversation about the UFC becoming a more mainstream sport. It's going to have that simplicity and easiness to understand, and familiarity. And I think that's kind of why they've elected to move with this boxing type scoring system, because most people, and again, I'll refer to our office that we used to work at together. Most people are familiar with that type of scoring and can understand the round by round scoring. So if there is a change, I do think that it's got to take that into consideration. And again, guys, a lot of us are, most people are not watching the fight night cards. Most people are tuning in for a big pay-per-view. Most people are tuning in for some of the pay-per-views with a bigger name on it. But for people like us, we do have to understand that in order for this sport to continue to become more mainstream, some concessions are going to have to be made there. And just like, some diehard fans of other sports, the diehards are always kind of left out in the cold a little bit when the masses are being appealed to. So, but understand that that's a good thing for the sport. It's a good thing for you. You're going to get to talk about it to more people, and you're going to be the expert when you do. So there is a benefit to it, being shown to the masses and being appealed to the masses.
Fair enough. I still don't think there's anything more simple than just judging the fight as a whole and picking who I thought won the fight. Is that at this point?
I think you would run into some serious challenges there. And, every fight that I've seen in person, every street fight, every schoolyard fight, they're really not that cut and dry, bro. So
all right.
It's usually the person that's on top at the end that's the winner, and I don't think that's a really fair way to judge a professional fight. So just saying.
Well, hey, man, if that guy that was on top got dropped like 5 times and then he's not doing anything on top, I think you still lean with the guy that got dropped 5 times. And those are the ones that everyone's running around the school showing you on their phone about how they got knocked out. So whatever. But anyways, guys, let us know what you think in the comments. I want to know who you guys side with, me or JL. We're excited to read them. But as always, guys, thank you so much for tuning into the show. That's our show of Two Guys One Octagon. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to get yourself in contention for that giveaway of leaving a comment in the section below with a like and subscribe. But as always, Isolando, take us home. Cheers to you all. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye. What you said, but I care for the fan. I'ma fall on my sword like it's all good. Problem child, mama child, look, karma coming back around. Out of town, flexing for your nigga.